Aloha and welcome to Spirit Chat Radio. Today I'm going to do a show where I'm going to be talking about change. I've been getting a lot of emails. I've been getting a lot of Facebook messages, social media messages, for people just really asking, can you please, you know, tell us what your spiritual advice is for this, or what you see, what your observation is with what's going on in the world today. So I decided to do a show called The World is Changing. And I know that people really want to know some specific things about specific world events that are going on, but all in all, it's the same. It blankets under the same type of energy that we're going to be talking about today. For those of you who have been following me for a while, you have heard me talk about the shift that is happening. The Mayan calendar had talked about it a long time ago. The spiritual shift has been happening for a few years now. It's going to continue to do so as we move from a physically based, energetic based world that we live in to more of a spiritually energetic based world. And with that comes change. There's always going to be change. Change is inevitable. That's the first thing. It doesn't matter if it's in your life, doesn't matter if it's world events. Change is just inevitable. If you ever want to move forward, if you ever want to progress forward, it's literally inevitable. And the thing about change I find very interesting because it can be really uncomfortable for people. Change is just really throws people into a tailspin sometimes. It makes them get upset. It makes them feel uncomfortable. It makes them try to feel like they're off balance. It makes them try to find their ground again, or their comfortable place again. And that's the thing about change is it makes you come out of a comfortable environment, or one that you're very used to or familiar with, and it forces you to experience new things. And that's where the uncomfortable part comes. And that doesn't mean just experiences, it means energetically as well. And that is a good thing. It's not an awesome thing if you're wanting to advance spiritually, if you're wanting to advance in your life, if you're wanting to learn and develop and grow. You cannot stay in the same place. It doesn't matter if we're talking about world events. It doesn't matter if we're talking about personal events. You can't just constantly stay in the same place, because everything is changing around you regardless. The energy is constantly changing. The environment is constantly changing. There is change about, because that's how universal energy works. It's in constant flow and movement. So if you are kind of under the impression of, well, but I like things how they are, and I want them to stay this way, then you're really putting a block up, and you're not allowing yourself to experience even new and greater things. You're not allowing yourself to be in the flow of universal energy and how the Mother Earth itself works, how the other dimensions work, how universal laws work. You're trying to force that. You're trying to force that to stop. And so you really need to learn to adapt and be open to change. And it's interesting because most people I have experienced in my life, most people who I come across, or friends, family, that sort of thing, when change happens in their life, they really flip out. I mean, for the most part, they really do. They get worried, they get nervous, they get upset, they get anxious. So they start going through all these scenarios in their head of all these worst things that could happen. Doesn't matter if it happens with your job, or like a living situation, or any of these things. People start to freak out. And I find that very interesting, because what I tell people is, in my personal life, and probably in a lot of your life, if you think about it, most change, even if it was super uncomfortable, even if it felt like it was forced upon us or me or whatever, has really turned out to be some of the most fantastic advances that I've made in life. It's turned out to be some of the greatest and wonderful gifts. And so when change comes about in my life, I even I may be uncomfortable for a minute, but I don't view it the same way as a lot of people, because I have a pattern of realizing that every time my brain just goes right to, oh my gosh, change is happening, something cool is going to be happening. Like I said, it doesn't mean that I don't go through uncomfortable situations of adjustment. It just means that I know that something good's about to happen, because it always has. It always does. Always. And so I find it interesting how I seem to be rare in that thought process, because a lot of people who I know or who I deal with, they just immediately flip out and they go to the anxiety and the nervousness, and this could happen and that could happen. But, I think that you should, maybe if you're struggling with change in your life, personal or other, you should probably take a minute to review and go back to some of the big changes that you felt like you were forced to do, and see, how did those things turn out? Did they actually turn out worse or for the better? Now, your mindset can have a lot to do with this. The energy that you put out can have a lot to do with whether it's going to turn out better or whether it's going to turn out worse. If you have a negative mindset and you fall into a negative vibration, you're probably going to draw negative things in or negative outcomes. If you want to be optimistic and keep your mind open to what types of things that might be able to come that you maybe don't even know about, then you're raising your vibration and you're changing your vibration for a positive outcome. So, for instance, this is a lot working with universal laws, and I'm going to get into this a little bit deeper in a minute. But I have a story that actually just happened recently. So, for instance, my husband was concerned about, we had to bring another vehicle for for his work, and we only had so many parking spots, but we had this extra vehicle that we really didn't use anymore. We were going to sell a while ago, and then just things happened. We haven't sold it, and he wanted to bring this vehicle home. It was this week, I believe. And he started thinking, I really don't know he had said to me, I really need to figure out where to park this. And it would have been nice if this other vehicle was gone. And I was like, yeah, that would have been good. And lo and behold, he didn't worry about it. He just thought, it would be nice if I could find a place for this. Now, for some people, that would be very stressful because of the amount of parking that we have. And it was Saturday or Sunday morning, now I can't remember which day, someone knocked on our door and asked to buy the vehicle, which was really out of left field. So, long story short, we didn't even have to go looking to move this vehicle. Somebody literally came knocking on our door and said, hey, is that vehicle for sale? And it was the funniest thing. It was gone that very same day. So that's one type of scenario that that I'm talking about. But this can go into a lot larger, bigger things, which we're going to talk about more of world events. This is what we're going to get into a lot on this show, or what I'm talking a lot about on the show, is basically how universal laws and universal energy works, and how the vibration affects you, and how you can get into lower vibration, higher vibration stuff. So let's get into more world events a little bit. People have been wanting change for a really long time. They've put it out there. People are wanting a different state of the world. They are wanting more natural, organic type resources. They're wanting to move away from such the corporation based things. They're wanting to use more solar. They're wanting to have. They're more worried about caring for the environment and caring for people, and that is in alignment with the energy moving from a physical based world to a spiritual based world vibrationally. There's going to be a lot more people in tune with the planet and with the people and with doing things in a way that is not wasteful. And so people have been wanting change for a really long time. So I'm going to just briefly touch on something that is going to add to the rest of this conversation or this podcast, which is so then we have an election. I don't want to get into that per se very much because I view this stuff a lot differently than other people. You have that happen and all of a sudden just people lose their mind and just divide. It was like just the seas have parted and now there's this huge divide amongst the people because that was a large change. It was a large change that has shaken people to their very core. So a lot of people have gotten extremely uncomfortable. And instead of moving forward with kind of optimism and moving forward and being open to the universal change in this shift that's happening. And let's face it, I don't think that people quite understand that in order for change to happen, something big had to happen. There had to be some type of big shakeup. There really, really did. In order for the universal energy of the state of the world to shift gears and shift directions. There had to be a big change. That was inevitable. So it doesn't matter whose face that you put on this big change. It doesn't matter. People seem to use a face as like, oh, that's why that person and this and their views and their personal opinions and their personal life. And it's really interesting because the face doesn't matter. There's a much larger shift going on behind the scenes with that. A much larger energetic shift. That face is actually not really the thing. It's the whole energetic movement is shifting. Everybody can feel it. They can feel a shift coming. And so their brains automatically go to, nope, there's the target. This is the person, this is the name, to me, which is interesting because that's not how it works energetically. People who are not in tune with their spiritual bodies and don't really understand that they can feel the shift in their spiritual body. They can feel that change is coming about. It's also inevitable. So it makes them feel a little off balance and a little bit different in their spiritual bodies. They immediately want to put a target on that and make it stop. And they don't like that feeling. They don't like the feeling of uncomfortableness that they're having of just the spiritual shift. And that's kind of the wrong way to do that. So what happens is there's been a divide. People will go along. I've never seen a divide quite like this where people just really get kind of crazy and there's literally a spiritual divide. And I don't mean a religious spiritual divide. I mean their vibrations. People don't even realize that they're doing this. So a lot of people are either just going with the flow and they are aligning themselves with a high vibration and a optimistic mindset, and they are moving forward and allowing their vibration to stay high and allowing their mindset and their spiritual bodies to just go with the flow, be open and move forward and progress. Then you have this other group of people that are really aligning themselves with a lower vibration and a negative energy. And those people are getting all kinds of crazy right now. They're being very opinionated and very argumentative, and they are wanting to be confrontational, and that sort of thing. And so I am seeing something I've never quite seen before, which is a very large divide, and the intensity levels on both sides is very heavy. And so I normally there's more of a balance. Normally there's more of a gray area, or some people that are kind of, swinging back and forth, or kind of in between, or their intensity levels are a lot lower. This is not like that. This seems to be causing a huge split, divide, the higher vibrations, the lower vibrations. And people are really feeding into the vibration. So what's happening, which I find that the part that I'm not loving about this is the people who are really lining themselves with a lower vibration, and a negative mindset, is because we're moving to a spiritually based energy. And I'm going to get into this in a little bit more in detail in another show that I'm going to be doing for my Patreon people, where I'm going to be talking about how this works with negative spirits and negative things, and that sort of thing. So I'm just going to touch base on it a little bit here, but I'm going to get into a more advanced topic on this with another radio show. If you are interested in that, you can go to Patreon.com. I think it's / Jennifer O'Neill, or type in Jennifer O'Neill and Patreon. It's PATREON, and you can subscribe to that as over there. But for the more advanced topics, I kind of save for that Patreon podcast. So the thing is that when people bind together and they really get into this low vibration situation with themselves, they really feed into this, they really work with this with intensity, is you actually feed the negative parts of the spiritual based energy. You actually are feeding negativity, and this is a real thing now. As we're moving into this new era, we're going to be seeing a lot more lighter spirits, darker spirits, lighter energy, darker energy, and they're going to be a lot more prominent around us in our lives, in world events. And it's interesting how people are really feeding the beast right now. They are really, really intensely feeding the darker, negative, spiritually based energies. They are really intensifying that by aligning themselves with a lower vibration. And I really don't think that's awesome, not necessarily for world events, but in personal lives as well. The people, when they align themselves with a lower vibration, and they get all kinds of crazy and being intense in their lower vibration, you will actually draw in universal law dictates that you will also draw in lower vibration things, events, places, people into your life. And so those people will then draw some negativity into their life. It's inevitable that you do. It's not a punishment. It's not a scare tactic. It just is what it is. Remember, universal energy is like a magnet. So when you align yourself with high vibration, positive energy, it pulls high vibration, positive energy into your life, as long as you're not putting up any blocks, and as long as you're very open to something other than what your mind thinks positive or high vibration is. Same with if you align yourself with negativity or lower vibration, universal energy will pull in negativity and lower vibration. It is what it is. It's attracted to like. That's the way that it works. So how do you deal with things going on in the world like right now? And how do you deal with change in what's happening? Well, my very first piece of advice would be decide what you want to align yourself with. Because, like I said, change always brings about good. It really does. Does that mean that we're not going to go through some hard times or some uncomfortable moments? No, absolutely not. But in the grand scheme of things, change will bring about good. And so the first thing that you need to do is decide what vibration are you going to align yourself with. That's very important. Are you going to align yourself with a higher vibration and open flow? And when I say an open mind, I mean, the only reason I say that is because if you don't align yourself with positive energy and you're allowed to be open to what the universe is going to bring into your life. This is on a world scheme, but also a personal level, job, relationships, whatever. If you decide to align yourself with positive energy and move forward and just be open to what the universe or God or whoever is going to bring into your life, you're open to the flow of the universal energy. So that's one way. Or if you're going to allow yourself to be in the negative flow and negative energy and be very just certain that you know how all these negative things are going to happen, well, then that's the other choice that you have. But for those of you who want to learn how to align yourself with a higher vibration of yourself, and you're not really sure how, that's really where I'm headed with this. I'm really going to talk about that. So, in order to do that, you really need to sort of let go of feeling like you have any control over what's going to happen with world events, unless you decide that you want to put if you have concerns and you want to put those concerns into being proactive. That is where you can potentially make positive change, and you could potentially change things that you're feeling like that you want to make a difference with. So if you want to be proactive with change, then be proactive. You can get involved in if we're talking about world events, you can get involved in local legislation, or you can get actively involved in bills being passed, or actively involved in a positive way in bringing people together, not to state their opinions, not to share on Facebook unless you are doing an event that you're gathering people together to bring something forward legislative wise or something. You know what I mean? Like, that's being proactive, and that is aligning yourself with a higher vibration, because you're making a progress towards change that might be proactive and healthy, or affect people's lives in a wonderful manner. Your intention is to help mold a good scenario. And that is amazing. That is wonderful if people want to do that. That's really a cool thing. That's how a lot of good things are created, and good things are manifested, and good things are changed. Really good laws and different things like that. So if you're feeling passionate in a way that you don't know how to channel that energy in with the high vibration, proactive is one of the ways that you do that. And when you channel being proactive with the intensity of how you feel about something, really cool things can happen. But if you're not in a situation, maybe you work a lot, you have kids, and you're trying to do extracurricular activities and just do the laundry and buy groceries, and you're not in a position that you want to take on something like that, and you still want to align yourself with a higher vibration and not feel icky anymore because of everybody getting all crazy, I would be very, very careful about social media. This is one thing that I don't think people quite understand, the addiction. Social media is literally the addiction of today. It literally is. It is the new addiction of today. People cannot stop themselves. It's amazing to me. It is so amazing that they just cannot help themselves from commenting on things for people that they don't even know. I'm seeing a lot of, or I have seen a lot of instances where people have showed me, because if you know me, I'm never hardly on social media except for my immediate groups, that, where people are commenting to other people, but they're kind of hiding behind their social media in a way that they are not respectful to other people, and they would say things that they normally wouldn't say to somebody's face. It's quite interesting, the voice that people have on social media, and how angry that people get on there, and how they just the drama that surrounds social media. In fact, it seems to me, my personal opinion of it, which is why I'm never on it and I don't care for it at all, is besides when people have groups and stuff, I think that that's being proactive, and that can be a wonderful thing, is it just seems like the majority of people who are on there, they they tend to have a voice in a way that can bring about a lot of negativity. I see a lot of negative things on there. A lot of pray for this, pray for somebody, oh, this has happened, that has happened. A lot of people who really, there's not a lot of positive things that are on there. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't some. It just means that it seems to be less than some of the more negative stuff that goes on in there. So I'm not a big fan of that. The other reason I'm also not a big fan of social media is because the amount of time that people spend on social media. The amount of time that people spend on social media that I personally know is mind-boggling. It's just insane. And the interesting thing about this really is I'm seeing more, like, for instance, Facebook is one that really takes a lot of people's time. And in my mind, I always wonder why these people aren't spending more time interacting with their families, their kids, being out in the world, like being outdoors at the beach, in the hills, driving around, just being in nature. Why are they not spending much more time doing these things? And they spend a lot of time just seeing what everybody else is doing, and I don't feel like that enhances your life. I don't quite understand how that enhances your life, truthfully. And for me, I have a limited amount of time, so I want to spend it in ways that enhance my life or my family's life. And so that I find very interesting. But yeah, Facebook is weird because not a lot of young kids are on that anymore. It's a lot of adults. The young kids are going to different things that are, don't get me wrong, they still have social media addictions, but they're going to shorter ones, Snapchat or different things like that, and they're not spending quite as much time on those. So I find that kind of interesting. But really beware of being on social media, and really beware of what you're reading on there. It can bring your vibration down in a millisecond, and it can leave you feeling not very awesome. And actually, this is in alignment with my empath class and what my lesson's going to be, I believe, next week. So you really want to be more aware of the vibration that social media brings. And the vibration that I have noticed for social media for the last couple months has been extremely negative. And this is going to sound funny to everybody when I say this, but it is such a negative vibe that's being emitted that the minute that I log in to my Facebook account to actually post things in my group, I don't even go through my news feed. I have way too many people. I just don't spend the time to do that. The minute I even log in, I get a very overwhelming sick feeling to my stomach. And that's because I'm an empath, and that's because of my abilities. If I log in, I immediately feel the vibration and the undertone being emitted from that social media network. Before I don't even have to look at anything. And because it was such a powerful thing, I have stayed away from social media a lot for the last month and a half or so. And a lot of you who follow me have probably noticed and wondered where the heck I was. But I just didn't want to subject myself to that feeling when I logged in there. So it's intense. It's very, very intense. So that's one thing that you're going to want to watch for. And the other thing, so we talked about being proactive, and we talked about figuring out which vibration you're going to align yourself with and being much more aware of if you're going to align yourself with a higher vibration and be open to what universal change. God, change is so cool, you guys. I don't get it. I don't get why people just freak so fast, but change is so awesome when it happens, and just the universe unfolds it in such an amazing way usually. When we ask for change and when we're open to it, it just unfolds like a beautiful flower. It really, really does. You just don't know which flower you're going to get. You don't know when it's going to bloom. It's amazing. So you need to figure out, are you going to align yourself with open, positive universal energy? Are you going to align yourself with negative energy? And be aware of what you've already aligned yourself with. You might not even know. You might have accidentally fallen into having a lower vibration. You may have accidentally done that, and that's not a bad thing. It just is a thing. And so if you recognize that and decide, ooh, wait a minute, this is why I haven't felt so awesome, or I've been feeling cranky or whatever, then you just make a shift. That's another really cool thing. Awareness is so cool because once you're aware, then you can make a shift and you can make a change. And what comes with change? Really cool things. So you want to be aware of your vibration, what you've aligned yourself with. Then you want to be proactive if that's something you're feeling passionate about, and not just run around not being proactive, voicing your opinion on several different platforms or to lots of people is not being proactive. It really, really is not. That is you just aligning yourself with a negative vibration and trying to spread negativity because you're basically trying to lower other people's vibrations. That is not being proactive. That is so the opposite of being proactive. Being proactive is making a plan and a movement that will actually bring about change. That's something very different. So being proactive, if you feel passionate about something, is a good thing. Being aware of social media and the vibration that's holding right now. It is holding a very huge negative undertone with it. So being very aware of that when you're on it, in it, giving your opinion on it, reading it, whatever. That's another thing. And lastly, you want to be aware of the people that you're around. And you want to be aware of what type of conversations, what type of vibrations that the people you're around are emitting. And if you find that you are wanting to align yourself with a higher vibration, then you're going to have to be careful of being around people who are lower vibration. That doesn't mean you cannot be around them, because that's impossible some of the time. But what it does mean is be more aware of who you're around. And if they start getting into a conversation that makes you know that, yep, this is going to go a very opinionated way, and in a way that is going to be not make me feel awesome, then you duck out, or you change the subject, or you just be like, oh, what, I gotta go. I'll catch you later type of thing. You start being more aware of who you're hanging out with. But so hopefully that this was helpful. The world is changing, and it's so awesome. It's always awesome. The world there's going to be some really cool things that unfold. And, that's something that I can feel on a spiritual level. I can feel the shift, and, it's uncomfortable energy when the movement is choppy like that. It's uncomfortable when you go from something that you're very comfortable in energetic wise, and then that energy shifts because you have to then adjust to a different kind of energy. It doesn't mean bad things are going to happen. It just means things are changing. And like I said, it doesn't mean that we're not going to go through some uncomfortable situations, but change is always good. That means the flow is always moving. It's moving forward, and that's an amazing thing. But your outlook, your vibration is going to have a huge impact in your own life when it comes to change of any kind. When it comes to personal change, jobs, relationships, money, whatever. When it comes to world change, world hunger, the environment, bigger political issues, your vibration, your outlook is going to 100% affect your life. It really, really is. And so you're responsible for your outlook. You're responsible for your vibration. And you're the only one responsible for what you are drawing in energetically in your life. Nobody else is responsible for that. You can't pin that on somebody else. You can't pin that on another person's face or name. Nobody else is responsible. That is purely 100% on your shoulders. So make sure that you are aware of that. You take responsibility for that. And you use that energy wisely, because you can do some really cool things with that. You can really create an amazing life, amazing outlook, and amazing vibration. It's not always going to stay that way, though. This is something that you will have to work at while you are here on this earth. You might do really well for a while, and then you may have a hiccup where you're having a bad day, a bad week, a bad month. And then you're just like, oh, I got to give myself an attitude adjustment, right? That's super common and totally normal. But the key is to learn and understand when you need an attitude adjustment, and it's to take responsibility and then be proactive and change it. It's to learn that this is why we're here, but we're responsible for our own feelings or how we adjust to things, how we adjust to change on a personal level, we ourselves. Okay? And so hopefully this was helpful. You can check out my podcast on iTunes. You can jump over to Keys to the Spirit World. I have a whole bunch of cool stuff on there. And if you want to, like I said, I'm working on more advanced topics with my Patreon group. So if you're wanting to get more involved in the Patreon group, we're also getting to more advanced topics on the Patreon or the Facebook page that comes with that group, Spirit Chat. You can stop on over to there. It's patreon.com, I believe, /Jennifer O'Neill, or I don't know. If you just type in patreon.com and Jennifer O'Neill in the search, I'm sure you'll find me. If not, you can message me or email me. Until next time, hopefully you have a wonderful day. Aloha.